Okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Be'ezrat Hashem, tonight we're going to be learning a very important subject, and that is, of course, the laws of Pesach and how to properly prepare for Pesach, the do's and the don'ts. And Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us that we should properly prepare for this very important Chag. May it be the will before Hashem that everything that we say is correct according to Halacha, and B'ezrat Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help us all to properly learn the Halachot properly. So, first of all, it's important for us to understand that when we approach this subject, it's important to approach it with the right attitude. It's a difficult job to properly prepare the home for Pesach, as we know that the Yisur Chametz is an Yisur b'mashehu, that even a small speck of Chametz on Pesach can go ahead and can nullify, can knock out everything. And welcome. Oh. Push, yeah, welcome. Baruch haba. A lot of people, Baruch Hashem. Yeah. So Baruch Hashem, the Isur of Chametz is an Isur b'mashehu, which means that even one small speck of Chametz gets into our food on Pesach, and the entire pot is garbage. So therefore, we make sure that we clean up very well, so that Chalila v'chas, we shouldn't have any Chametz in our food on Pesach. But when doing so, which is tedious and it's tiring, but you should remember that this work that we do, the effort that we put into this mitzvah, is very, very special. It's effort that HaKadosh Baruch Hu considers to be like Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev said, just like on Rosh Hashanah there's Tkiyat Shofar, so on Pesach there's the cleaning and the scrubbing, and it's like the sounds of the shofar. And it's an appeasing aroma to Hashem. It's like Mr. Clean is like Ketoret. So we have to remember that every little bit of effort that we do in preparation for the Chag of Pesach is extremely, extremely important. And it's very important in the eyes of Hashem. Okay, so a couple of things that we have to talk about, first of all, before we even get to the actual preparation. First of all, we have to know, it's imperative that we sell our chametz on time. I can't emphasize this enough. Every year there's somebody that comes to me after we already sold the chametz with a form, and they say, oh, can you sell the chametz for us? But wait a second, it's already too late. It's already in the daytime, already Erev Pesach, after we sold the chametz, and now they have a big problem on their hands. All their whiskey is going to be garbage, and all the stuff that they wanted to sell is going to have to go into the garbage. It's a whole big problem. So why wait to the last minute? You have the form, fill it out, bring it to the rabbi, whoever it may be, and sell it on time. And that way you won't have this issue. It's important to be aware that if you plan on going overseas, let's say you want to be in Eretz Yisrael for Pesach, so you can't sell your chametz with somebody in New York. The reason is because if you sell your chametz with someone in New York, when you're in Israel, by the time Pesach comes in already, you haven't yet sold your chametz because the rabbi is selling it only a few hours later in New York. So it's a big problem. You have to make sure that you sell it with someone who's in the same location as yourself. That way, it's sold on time. And in the opposite direction, let's say that you find yourself in California on Pesach. So then the rabbi is going to be buying back the chametz for you in New York around 3 hours ahead of time, because for you it's still Pesach. So you have to make sure that when you're in California, that you have in mind that you are not acquiring your chametz until Pesach has ended for you. So these are little details that's important to understand. Clear so far? We're good so far? Yeah? Okay, just making sure. Great. Okay, fantastic. Now, so that's very important to be aware that you have to sell your chametz on time. You have to make sure that it's in the same time zone as you. So that's very important as well. And like we said, if you're a few hours early, you can still sell it with someone in New York. Just make sure that you have in mind not to acquire it back until Pesach has concluded for you. Okay, so let's talk about how we prepare the kitchen for Pesach. So there's a general rule all throughout the Torah that whenever there's something that has absorbed the forbidden food, you're not allowed to use any kind of vessel that has absorptions of forbidden food. So if, let's say, somebody cooked not kosher food, he cooked pig in a pot, so you cannot then go ahead and cook pasta in that same pot, even though you're not eating pig. But since the flavor of the pig is absorbed in the walls of the pot, so then that will go back out into your food, and therefore it'll be like eating pig. Now, that rule applies for Pesach as well, that although chametz is something which we're allowed to eat all year long, but when it comes to Pesach, we're not allowed to eat it. And therefore, we say that you cannot use the dishes that you use chametz with all year long on Pesach, because the flavor that is inside of those vessels will come out and go into your food. So in order to use those dishes, you would have to kosher those dishes or those vessels first, because otherwise you're going to be tasting the taste of chametz on Pesach, which is a problem. So it's something which applies everywhere, to all parts of the kitchen, that we want to make sure that, first of all, it's clean, that there are no pieces of chametz lying around anywhere, and that whatever absorptions of chametz are in the vessels that you want to use, that they are nullified, that they are gone, they are burnt up, however it is that we can kasher it, that we get rid of it ahead of time. So let's talk about, first of all, what we need to do in order to clean for Pesach. Now, by the way, everybody should participate in the cleaning for Pesach. It's not something which is solely on one particular individual. It's something which can be done and should be done by everybody together, helping out together. It doesn't all have to fall on just one person. If extra help is necessary, then that's very important. It's important that everything should be done with shlom bayit. It's brought down that that the word matzah, which is what we eat on Pesach, also is in Hebrew could also mean a fight. Matzah meriva. So it's sometimes the way of the Yetzer Hara, in a way of doing a great mitzvah, like getting rid of all the chametz for Pesach, that the Yetzer Hara puts in all kinds of high pressure moments and causes people to get anxious and lose their temper and lose their cool. And that's something which we don't want, because the whole purpose of getting rid of the chametz from our house is to get rid of the Yetzer Hara, to eliminate him from our home. But he finds his way to creep in the form of a mitzvah, so to say, and then everyone gets, anxious and frustrated, and they start yelling and screaming, and that's not what we want. So it's good to plan ahead of time that we should have the significant amount of help. Shalom Aleichem. So we should have the significant amount of help that we don't have this kind of heavy-duty pressure. Okay, very good. So what needs to get clean for Pesach? Let's get right down into it. So number one, the idea is any place that is accessible, that people bring chametz to that location, that's what has to get clean for Pesach. So certain spots that people never bring chametz there doesn't have to get clean for Pesach, because chametz never goes there. Do you need to check books for chametz? Some Ashkenazim have the chumrah to check books for chametz. Rav Ovadia Alav Hashem held you don't have to. It's not required. If you want to, it's something else, but you don't have to. You don't have to drive yourself crazy if it's not necessary. When it comes to children, so sometimes their clothing, they put chametz inside of their clothes. It's important to make sure that for the kids, they get their clothing laundered and it's clean from all kinds of chametz. But generally by adults, we don't have to worry about that, because we don't take the chametz and actually put it into our pockets. Okay, let's talk about the dining room table. Very important. Got to clean it up very well. Clean it thoroughly. And there are sometimes cracks in the table. Make sure that all the crumbs inside are cleaned and bleached, and not bleached, but the point is with some kind of a cleaner to make sure that it's all cleaned properly. And when you're done with that, what I do personally is I cover it with plastic and I tape it down so it stays covered the entire time. Then I put a tablecloth on top of it. The tablecloths don't need to be special for Pesach. Some people are machmir to have special tablecloths, but the truth is that it's not required. As long as you put it in the laundry on a hot load, everything should be fine. That's good enough. Okay, what about chairs? So we have many times crumbs inside of the chairs. Welcome, Brucha haba. Welcome.
Did I miss a lot?
Not a lot, no, don't worry about it. So chairs, how do we clean chairs? The answer is many times there are cracks, there are crevices inside of the chairs. You want to clean them as best as you can, get rid of them again. Remember, even one speck of chametz falls into your food on Pesach, the whole thing is garbage. So therefore you want to make sure that you clean it up well. If there's ever a spot that you can't reach, so then what you do is you bleach it. You pour some kind of bleach on it, something that's, or Windex or something that will make it inedible. Because once a food is nifsal me'achilat kelev, which means that not even a dog can eat it, so at that point already, it doesn't pose the threat anymore because it's something which is not considered food. Not even a dog would eat it. So that if you can't reach it, at least spritz it with a good spritz, with a Windex or something, and that should be good. Okay, we vacuum the couch, under the cushions, again, because we don't want, that's where there are places where there are lots of chametz crumbs all the time. We want to get rid of them. Kids' high chairs. If you have a high chair for the kids, so then you want to make sure that you clean that up as well. I sometimes just cover the tray with like a garbage bag or with a plastic, and I just cover it up so that you don't have to worry about it. It's all totally covered, and they are, it's just nothing to worry about. I just cover the whole entire thing with a garbage bag, and you're good. So we have a question over here. How do I see the question? I don't know. Okay, we'll figure it out. Okay, let's go. We have any questions over here, anybody? We're good?
Like foil is the same as plastic?
Yes, totally. The key is, though, that you want to make sure it doesn't rip. The question was, is foil the same as plastic? The answer is yes. The thing is, though, you want a couple of layers that it shouldn't rip. That's the thing, because many times foil tends to just tear.
Sorry.
That's okay. Welcome. What's that?
The front door is open. Want it open?
Sure. Unless it's cold. Okay, let's continue. Now, what do we do with cars? Same thing. The cars, we vacuum them, take them to the car wash, get it nice and clean. Carpets as well, we vacuum them, make sure that there's nothing there. We clean the floors well, Mr. Clean, Swiffer, however you want to do it, and that way the floor is good. And again, remember that the smell of Mr. Clean is like a ketoret to Hashem at this time. It's like this is our avodah, and it's a real nachat ruach to Kadosh Baruch Hu when we clean. Because again, the whole purpose of this is, as you're doing it, you should. I heard recently on the radio that they were trying to justify the high gas prices that we have now, $4.30. That when you pump the gas, you should have in mind that you're sticking it to Putin. That's what they were trying to say. So I don't know if that's really true or not, but this is for sure true. When you clean for Pesach, you have in mind that I'm getting rid of the Yetzer Hara from my house. And when you do that, it'll feel amazing and it'll really uplift you. All of us, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay. Like we said, tablecloths, we can put in the laundry and use them for Pesach. It's okay. A lot of times people have rings that they wear when they need dough for challah. Those rings need to be thoroughly cleaned because a lot of times there's some dough that's left over on them. We've got to clean those up as well. A lot of times it's important to remember to buy special birkonim for Pesach.
What's your code?
Birkat Hamazon, like a bencher, because a lot of times I would say most of the time, the regular benchers that we have are all full of chametz. You don't want to use that on Pesach, definitely not. Okay, let's see. I saw recently somebody say also that the napkin ring holders, that people have the napkins inside of this ring, they also need to be kosher. I saw that interesting. So I guess if you could get special ones for Pesach, that's better. Okay, good. So that's with respect to cleaning. So far, so good. Any questions? We're good?
What about placemats?
Yeah, you want to get the new ones for Pesach, for sure. Okay.
I'm sorry, how deep in the closets? Like what do we have to do for closets?
For closets, if it's a place where there's where chametz is brought into, so then you need to clean it out as best as you can. If it's a place where chametz is never brought into, so then it's just a light little thing, and that's it.
Someone had a question.
We had a question over here?
Someone here?
Yeah.
The content top, after washing, should we cover or not appropriate?
The countertops, we're gonna get to that. So we'll get to that right now. Okay. So now, I'm sorry, what?
Is this class going to cover everything, or is it just going to be?
I'm gonna try and cover as much as I can with the time that I've got. Okay, let's go. So now, koshering the kitchen. So when a person has metal pots or pans, so the halakha says that if you want to use the pots and pans that you use throughout the year, if the pots and pans are made of metal, you're allowed to kosher them. Now, how do you kosher a metal pot or pan? What you have to do is you have to take a larger pot or pan and fill it up with boiling hot water. And then, after having not used your pot for 24 hours, you take it and you dip it inside of the boiling hot, bubbling, larger pot. If, let's say, you cannot get all of it in at one shot, you can dip it in piece by piece. But the point is that you get all of it in and you kosher it. Yes?
The bigger pot that you're using, that's a kosher Pesach pot?
No, doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be. You could just take your pot and dip it into that very large pot. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Correct.
Does Great Neck have like a service for this?
A service of Hagala? Not yet, unfortunately. Not yet. Not that I know. I know that they have it in Borough Park in Flatbush, but yes, they do. But no. But it's something that you can do at home. It's not such a big deal. You just take a very large pot.
I did do it, but like I do have to do a special it would be easier for me.
It would be easier if it's outside and it's not spilling all over the place and making a mess. Yes, I understand. I got you. Okay, fine. So this is the process that we know called hag'ala. So you have to take your metal pot. It could be a pot. It could be a frying pan. It could be knives. It could be spoons. It could be anything which is metal or any kind of a metal. It could be silver. It could be a kiddush cup. Any kind of metal is allowed to be dipped inside of this boiling hot water. Once you dip it inside of this boiling hot water, you then take it out and then you wash it in cold water. Okay, that's a great disclaimer. We should start off before we even get into this stuff. You're absolutely right. The best thing would be to purchase a new set of everything for Pesach, a new set of pots and pans, new set of forks and knives. If you can, that would be the best thing to do. We're talking about sometimes the person has a particular item they want to use, so this is how you would kosher. But yes, indeed, that would be the best thing to do. To have special everything for Pesach. Yes.
When you said hot water, the hot water should be boiled or just hot water?
No, it has to be boiling. You need to see bubbles coming out of you have to see inside there's bubbles coming up from the water. And then you can dip inside of it. Okay. So that's with respect to koshering pots and pans. Now, the rule is all throughout Shas, kebol'o kach polto, which means in the same way that it absorbed, that's the way in which it will release whatever was absorbed. So this that we've been speaking about now, absorbed through liquid. It absorbed through heat of liquid. So that's why you dip it into a boiling hot pot, and that's how it gets rid of it. Now, by the way, when you kasher, make sure that you kasher your items before the chametz is forbidden. In other words, do it a few days before. I'm sure you do it anyway like that, but a few days before chametz is forbidden. Once already you can't have chametz, now it's a whole question whether or not your kashering is good. So don't even get into that. Just ahead of time, kasher it and have it ready. Okay. Now, there are some things that absorb through fire. Those objects which absorb through fire, the way to kosher them is through fire. So something like, for example, a grill. If you want to kasher a grill for Pesach, the first thing that you need to do is you have to address the situation of your grates. Sometimes people put buns on the grates, or they put sauces that have chametz in them on the meat. So you have to, figure out how you want to kasher your grates. The grates need to be burnt to the point where they're red hot and there are sparks coming out of them. How could you do that? So one way is that you could place it inside of charcoals, and you can just light all these charcoals on fire, and it's going to just burn a tremendous flame, and that's going to get your grates kosher. That's one way. And then you also have to address the hood that goes on top. If you take that hood and you cover up the barbecue while it's burning, tremendous flames like that, for about 40 minutes, that's good, okay? If you want to kasher your grill that way, or much more simple, you can simply purchase new grates for your grill. And then, what? I'm talking about a grill, like a barbecue, outdoor. Then what you do is you cover up the grill, turn it on to the highest temperature for about 40 minutes, and now you're good. So now you have new grates, and your actual structure itself has been kasher. Good? So far, so good? Why are you looking at me confused? What?
How does the structure get kosher?
Because the fire burns everything up. Exactly. It's reaching a very high temperature. Okay, great. Now, let's talk about kashering ovens. Okay? We all need our ovens for Pesach. How do we kasher our ovens for Pesach? So, there are two methods. If you have a self-cleaning oven, so then the best thing that you could do is you can put it on self-cleaning mode, and that will reach a very high temperature. Everything inside of it will burn up, and you're good. And you can also put in your metal grates, and that'll burn it as well. You have nothing to worry about. Everything gets burnt, and it kashers everything perfectly. I learned something new this year, actually. There's a new type of a self-clean, which is called, I'll tell you right now, it's pretty cool, actually. It's called Aqualift. Have you heard of this? Aqualift self-clean. Some ovens have a feature which is called Aqualift, or steam clean. Steam clean self-clean. There's two types of newer ovens that you have to watch out for. So, yeah, one is called Aqualift self-clean technology. The other one is called steam clean. Some of them are GE and some of them are Maytag. So these are really interesting, actually. They managed to get the oven very clean at only 200 degrees Fahrenheit. But what happens is there's a little bit of moisture that is that's in the oven. It mixes with the material that the oven is made from, and with the very small amount of heat, manages to clean it perfectly. So now, while this is a beautiful method of self-clean, but it's not what the halacha requires. The halacha requires libun, either chamur or libun kal. But the point is that this is only 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you have on your self-clean oven the option of steam clean or the Aqualift, so then don't use those. Use the other one, the conventional self-clean. I think what they do is they give you both options. You could do it the original way, the one that makes the house stink. It's very, very smelly. Or the Aqualift. Don't do that one. That's not considered to be koshering it for Pesach. Clear?
Rabbi, if let's say you put on self-clean and you have the grates in there, then you have a tray. If the tray's in there on top of the grates, that doesn't work, right? Because it's not burning all around. If you put a
No, it
tray on top
does.
of the
It
metal,
does. Anything that's in the oven when you self-clean gets burnt to a crisp. It works perfectly, actually.
so it doesn't matter if they're touching each other?
Doesn't matter. It's whatever's in there gets burnt to a crisp. It's a tremendous amount of heat. You're talking about 900, maybe 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a lot of heat. So it gets
Right, so
burnt
it's
up.
not like a mikveh or something where the water has to touch every side. This is just the fire is going to burn.
Well, you're talking now about hagala, about dipping it in boiling hot water.
No, right. So I'm comparing it. So I'm saying the oven, if I
Right,
put a tray in there on top
hagala,
of the metal.
boiling hot water. Yeah, that's not like the mikveh. When it comes to dipping something in the mikveh, that's correct. You have to reach every single part of the vessel needs to be dipped in the mikveh at the same time. Over here, when it comes to dipping an object in the hagala, it's not so. You can dip it part by part. That would be okay. In this case, we're talking about an oven where just anything that's in the area of the oven is going to get burnt up, and that's going to be okay because you're self-cleaning. So that's if you have self-cleaning and you're using the traditional self-cleaning method. Now, if let's say that you don't have the self-cleaning feature, so what do? So the answer is, what you do is you clean it very well. You clean it with Easy Off, some kind of really caustic type of cleaner, and then you turn it on to the highest temperature for 1 hour, and that's good enough. That's called libun kal, and that, according to many authorities, is good enough. If that's the only option that you have, then you could do that, because the other option is taking a blowtorch. And to be honest with you, being machmir in the laws of Pesach with a blowtorch could be very, very mekel, lenient in the laws of pikuach nefesh. Sometimes, sometimes these blowtorches can put a hole in the guy's house. It's not simple. So if you don't need to do it like that, I would avoid it. You could just turn it on to the highest temperature after you clean it very well. Clean the walls of the oven, clean the door, right? Make sure that you do it very, very well, and that way you go ahead and you kasher. Okay, that's with respect to ovens. Okay, let's continue. Now, the metal sheet pans that people like to bake in, they absorb through heat. They absorb through the heat of a fire. So if, let's say, I have a sheet pan that I cook all kinds of things, chametz inside of them, the way that I would need to kasher it is I'd have to blowtorch it. I'd have to put it inside of a very, very tremendous amount of heat. So if I have a self-cleaning oven, it's great, wonderful, that takes care of it. But if I don't have a self-cleaning oven, right, so then I would need to have special sheet pans for Pesach, because you can't really kasher them unless you blowtorch them or get them to that heat of a blowtorch. So that's a problem. We would need to get new sheet pans for Pesach if you want to do that. The grates of the oven as well, they need to be kashered on that heavy duty temperature. So if you can put them into the oven of a self-clean and you turn on the self-clean and it reaches that heavy temperature, fantastic. If you can't, so then what you need to do is you simply either get new grates for your oven. You can go online and get the ones that match your oven. Or what you can do is you can cover them with 2 layers of tin foil and use it that way. I've been told that when you cover it with tin foil, it doesn't cook the food as well because it kind of closes off like the oven from one part to the other. So I've heard. I don't know if it's correct or not. If it works for you, great. If not, then just get new grates. Clear? So far, so good?
What are the grates when you open
The things that your food sits on, that your trays of food sit on.
In the oven.
Oh, in the oven, but when you do self-clean.
If you have self-clean, you're good.
But
If
what
it's
about
a-
on top of the oven? You know how the stove top?
Right.
When you open it and everything, do you need to cover that with tin?
Let's get to stoves in just a minute. We'll get to the stove right now, actually. Okay, so so what you do again, if you want to get those grates, new grates for your oven, because you don't have self-clean, that's fine. Or if you want to double cover it with aluminum foil, that's also okay. Very good. Now, what about the grates on top of a stove? So Rabbi Ovadia writes that you're allowed to take the grates that are on top of a stove and dip them as well in the boiling hot water. The reason that you can do that is because, generally speaking, you don't put chametz directly onto the grates. And even if it does get there sometimes, usually it comes in the form of like spritzing from a pot that it falls onto the side of the grates. In other words, it's not like generally used directly with chametz. Right, but is it a constant thing, or is it like time to time? Right. So things drift. Okay. So very good. So still, that's a great question. The halacha according to Maran, the Shulchan Aruch, is that you only have to worry about rov tashmisho, which means the majority of the usage. So if majority of the time it's not being used like that, you don't have to worry about that, right? That's a very interesting halacha that the Shulchan Aruch holds. Now, would it be better in that case? Let's say you know that I frequently take my pitas and I put it on the gas, and that's what I do all the time. Yes, I would agree with you. In that case, it would be better if you have a self-cleaning oven, instead of doing hagala, take them, put them in the self-clean, and burn everything up, and that way you really have no concern. That would be a very good point. Okay, because this indeed is based on the assumption that most of the time it's just coming in the form of a spill from a pot, or maybe once in a blue moon he puts chametz directly on it. But you're right, if you know that you do that more frequently than not, then you really should put it into the self-clean or blowtorch it. Okay, great. Let's continue. What about a stove itself? So if you have a metal stove top.
Excuse me, Rabbi.
Sorry?
I have a question, or actually a suggestion.
Okay.
I was told that you could take those burners, not the burners themselves, but the top of the stove, and you clean it thoroughly. Then you just turn on the fire for 15 minutes, and that kind of clears it from whatever chametz taste there was.
So that's a great idea. The reason that that's a great idea is because what you're doing is you're burning up the grates directly through a fire. The only concern that I have then, if you're doing it like that, is that you have to kind of keep on rotating the burners as you're doing it, meaning the grates, because you have to make sure that it gets to every side of the grate equally. So
Right.
Let's say what you do, let's say you take a blech from Shabbat and you do exactly what you said. It's just that you cover it with a blech, then you resolve my issue. So that would be a good suggestion. If let's say you want to do it this way, like instead of a self-cleaning oven, you take the grates of the stove, you put them on the stove, turn on the burners, and then you cover it all with a blech of Shabbat, then that would work. That would be good, because the heat is getting to all sides, it's getting contained. And again, we're talking about a metal stovetop. If it would be glass, like a glass cooktop, you're risking cracking your glass. That's not good. Okay. So
thank you.
That would be great. Now, so now let's talk about the regular metal stovetop. So what do you do for the actual metal? So the answer is, first of all, you clean it very well. And being that it is metal, you can go ahead and you can pour boiling hot water onto it, and that would be very good. Or if you are able to cover it with tin foil with a couple of layers, that's also good, because whatever falls onto it is not going to touch the actual stove. So that's okay. So again, you clean it, you pour the boiling hot water onto it, and you're good to go. Cover it cover it completely with tin foil. What about a hot plate? Hot plate for Shabbat. So a hot plate, you're allowed to kasher. Rabbi Ovadia writes that you're allowed to pour boiling hot water onto it. It would be good to not only do that, but cover it as well with tin foil. The reason being, a hot plate?
Mine is glass top.
Glass top for the hot plate. So glass is usually better unless it has cracks. Does it have cracks in it? No. So glass is usually good because we hold, as Sfaradim hold, that glass doesn't absorb. So therefore, you're
The
good.
thing is that there were a few times throughout Shabbat that people put challah directly on it. Is that a problem?
So it does make a difference, but it does make a difference for metal. For metal, it makes a difference. When you put challah directly on it, so now it's kind of like those sheet pans that we were talking about before that absorb through heat, through fire. So over there, you need a stronger form of kashering. Welcome. Over there, you need a stronger form of kashering. So what you would need to do is you could pour boiling hot water onto it, and then you simply cover it with a couple of layers of tin foil, and that will be the best thing. And then when you put food onto the hot plate, don't put it directly. Put it inside of something else. Put it inside of a tin. Put it inside of something else that it shouldn't be direct. That way you address the issue. So we had a question over here. How do I see the questions? Sorry, 1 second. Can you use a water cooler? Oh, so a water cooler, yes. A water cooler that's just cold water. You don't really have to worry about anything. It's just always cold water coming out. If it's hot water, we're going to talk about a hot water urn very shortly. Okay, we had any questions before we move on? Welcome. We're good? Okay, beautiful. Let's continue. Now, what if you have an electric stovetop, a cooktop, as they call it, right? So how do you deal with that? A lot of times, the electric cooktop is something that cannot be koshered, like if it's made of, like a mixture. See, glass, usually we hold, it's not a problem, but a lot of the glass that we have is not just pure glass. It's like mixed with other types of things that actually cannot be kosher. So what do you do for that? So I saw a beautiful psak from Rav Gidon ben Moshe, one of the Dayanim in Yechaveh Dat. He says the following: you have to clean it well. You have to leave it for 24 hours. Then you turn all the burners on to the highest temperature for 5 minutes. And then you pour boiling hot water onto it 3 times. Not 1 time, 3 times. And that will do it. Okay? So again, you have a cooktop. Those are the instructions. If it's a cooktop that's electric or it's maybe with a ceramic type of cover, the point is that's how you do it. Clean it very well. Don't use it for 24 hours. Then turn it on to the highest temperature for 5 minutes. Then pour boiling hot water on it 3 times, and that's how you kosher it. Is it good? Clear? Doable? Yeah? Okay, fantastic. Wonderful. So that's how you do it. By the way, with the hot plate, I want to make sure we got that clear. With the hot plate, if you put challah on it directly, if you put things directly on the hot plate, again, you have to pour boiling hot water on it, cover it with tin foil, and then when you actually use it on Pesach, put your food in something and then put it on top. Don't put it directly, okay? Because you have absorbed challah directly into the hot plate, and it requires a much more severe form of kashering because of that. So this would be how you would address that.
But if it's a glass top, you can just do you need to pour boiling water on it?
So that's the thing. The problem is it really glass? We have to know, is it glass or is it mixed with other kinds of things? A lot of times it's like 60% glass, but it's other kinds of things in there too. So what you want to do is you want to, kosher it as best as you can. Pour the boiling hot water if it's not going to break it. If not, then just do the tin foil and use it that way. Clean it very well. Use the tin foil and 2 layers. And when you put the food on, put it inside of something else, in a tin, in a tray, in something like that.
It's probably best to just get a new one.
If you can, that would be great. Okay, perfect. Good. Any questions before we move on? We're good? Great. Okay, now, what about a microwave? So if you want to kosher your microwave, this is how you do it. You have to clean it well. You have to put in a bowl of water and soap, and then you have to turn it on for the length of time that you would normally use it. Like, what would be the longest time you cook something in a microwave? Let's say maybe 10 minutes. Have you ever cooked something for 10 minutes in a microwave? So if yes, then you leave the thing going for 10 minutes, and that's how you take care of it. Some hold that you cannot kasher a microwave, but those that are lenient say this is how you do it. Okay, now, metal, marble, granite, any kind of pure stone countertop, you're allowed to go ahead and kasher. The question comes up, what about formica? Formica is a type of a plastic, so there are big questions about whether or not you can kasher. So usually, and even when it comes to marble and granite and things like that, a lot of times what ends up happening is they have cracks inside of them because you maybe put something very hot on it, or you put something heavy on it, or whatever the situation may be, you cracked the marble. So what happens is that chametz gets inside of those cracks. So in such a case, you're allowed to kasher it, you're allowed to go ahead and kasher it, but the area that has cracks, you should cover up. You should put something on top of it, because a lot of times it's hard to get the chametz from out of there. So the poskim say that if you have cracks inside of those areas, cover them up. But you can kasher them technically. So any kind of metal countertop, you clean it, pour boiling hot water onto it, you're good. Any kind of marble countertop, granite countertop, there's a long list of types of just pure stone countertops, you can kasher them, no problem.
So you put hot water on top.
You put hot water on top. By the Ashkenazim, they have a custom that they take, what?
Should you cover it also?
So it depends. If you have, like we were saying before, if you have cracks in there and you can't really get to the chametz inside, so then yeah, cover it. If you don't, then you don't really need to. We're good?
You were saying something about the Ashkenazim? What about
the Ashkenazim have a custom when they kasher the countertops, they take a boiling hot brick, and as they're pouring the hot water, they run along with a brick that they should keep the water still hot as it's moving. I've seen this actually done with a hot iron, that they heat up the iron very hot, and as they're pouring, they run it with the what? Yeah, they run the hot iron with the water as it's going to keep the water hot to kasher.
I've heard they also use a steamer. They just use a steamer instead of hot water.
That alone wouldn't be enough. It's both. It's the hot water and the hot brick or the hot iron. That's what I've seen, at least by the Ashkenazim. Yeah. Okay. Now, other types of countertops, we say it's a machloket if they are able to be kashered. So the custom is to simply cover it. You can go to one of these stores that they sell these styrofoam covers. Other types of countertops, the custom is to simply cover it. What you can do is you clean it, you put some tin foil around it, and you go ahead and you cover it with like tin foil, but tin foil rips. So you want to put like one of these styrofoam covers on top. What you could do is you go to a store and they cut it to size. So you give them the exact dimensions and they give you the pieces that exactly fit your countertops, and you don't have any issue.
So you need to cover it when it's not stone?
That would be the best thing to do, yeah.
I'm sorry, quartz?
Do you need to do that or no?
That would be the best thing,
But
yeah.
you're saying the best is to cover.
Yeah,
the countertop.
definitely. That way you don't have any questions. Sorry, we have a question?
Quartz countertops is, you have to cover it?
No, quartz is stone. Quartz is glass? I have the list over here, 1 second. That's why I come prepared. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Just to make sure that I don't make a mistake.
Please tell me you don't have to cover it. Oh my God.
I don't know. Hold on, bear with me 1 second,
If you cover
and
it,
I will tell you.
Pour hot water or no?
Hold on, just give me a second. Where are we? Okay. Sinks. Okay. For Micah. Silestone, any other brand using quartz and resin?
Just wash it.
Oh, wow. So, okay, I'll tell you what he says over here. He says quartz is number 7 in the Maz scale. Cannot be kosher. Yeah. So it needs to be covered.
Or section, they say just clean it well.
That's what he says. Okay, we'll look it up. We'll see if anybody says anything different. We'll see if there's anything else.
Yes, can you please tell us?
I'll get back to you. Do me a favor, send me a text and remind me, okay?
Someone is writing that the quartz is man-made, but the quartzite is stone, like quartzite. I don't know. I guess there's a distinction between look in the chat.
That is brand.
Quartz is man-made, quartzite is stone. Okay, right. So Bli Neder, I'm going to get back to you about quartz. You have to know exactly what type it is. There's so many different types nowadays. Bli Neder, I will get back to you. Send me a text, and Bli Neder, a little bit later, I'll get back to you. Okay.
But
Yes.
if you're going to cover it, do you need to pour boiling hot water on top?
No, but you should clean it. You should clean it very well. Okay, but you should do 2 covers. Do a layer of tinfoil or 2 layers, and the styrofoam type of a cover. You know that they give you, they cut it for you. Okay, now let's talk about stainless steel sinks. So stainless steel, Baruch Hashem, is a metal. How do you kosher that? You don't use it with hot water for 24 hours. Then you pour boiling hot water everywhere, all over the faucet, all over the handles, all over the sink itself. And that's how you kosher it for Pesach. If you have a ceramic sink, then what we do is you put an insert inside of it. I do believe Rav Ovadia was lenient as well to pour boiling hot water on it there too, but it's not the common custom from what I know. We switch the drain nets at the drain. We just get new ones for Pesach. Those aren't such a big deal, but they do contain a lot of chametz that's hard to get out. So that's the sink filter. We replace that for Pesach. Somebody has dentures. Somebody has braces. So dentures, you can pour boiling hot water on them, obviously when they're out of the mouth, right? Or when it comes to braces that a person has, so they can go to the doctor maybe a couple of days before Pesach and have them get a cleaning, or they could just kind of really try very hard to get out whatever they've got there and pull it all out before Pesach. Okay, what about a dishwasher? So I'll tell you the truth. I did see that the Yalkut yes, we have a question? Whenever you kosher anything, whatever it may be, you let it sit for 24 hours, you don't touch it. And the reason for that is that you want whatever was absorbed inside of the pot or whatever it is that you're koshering, that it should spoil, that it should not provide a good flavor. If it would, then while you're koshering it, it would leave the walls of the pot and then come back in all over again as a brand new good flavor of something which we're not supposed to have. So therefore, you let it spoil first for 24 hours, then you kosher. So that's the rule for anytime you kosher something. I'm sorry?
First wash it 24 hours and don't use it, and then you put hot water on it.
First wash it, right? Don't use it, and then after 24 hours, if it's a pot or whatever we're talking about, you pour the boiling hot water onto it, or you put it in the boiling hot water, whatever method we're telling you to do. Okay, so I did see a very big chidush. The Yalkut Yosef is of the opinion that you are allowed to use the regular year-round dishwasher for Pesach. Now, the way that he says to do that is you have to kosher it, and the way to do that is you empty it out, of course, let it sit there for 24 hours, and then have run a cycle of dishwashing with dishwashing detergent with soap, and then afterwards you're good to go. That is the opinion of the Yalkut Yosef. Commonly, however, I haven't seen it done. I haven't seen people use the dishwasher for the same for Pesach, because there are many opinions that disagree with that. They say that it's incorrect to use the dishwasher because it's not really, you can't really kosher it that well, especially the grates that they hold that you can't kosher plastic, and Rabbi Vadia holds you could kosher plastic. Bottom line is, I personally don't use this dishwasher on Pesach that we use all year round. But if somebody wants to rely on the leniency, it's there. So it's important to be aware of it. Yeah.
Says we can kosher plastic.
Yes. Yes, he does. Avadia Alav Hashem held you're allowed to kosher plastic. So it makes a big difference in a lot of areas. Yes.
What about like the Teflon or aluminum? Like
Teflon is
you
not
put-
kosherable.
you can't put it in the self-clean.
No, it'll ruin it.
Uh,
It'll ruin it. Teflon you cannot kosher. It's something that is a kind of material.
Like non-sticks.
Yeah. Nothing to do about it. Okay. And as well, of course, needless to say, any kind of china, any kind of ceramic, all these types of things, we cannot kosher for Pesach. So, or in general at all. It says that whatever it absorbs, it doesn't come out. So we can't kosher these things. If you want a set of china for Pesach, you got to get a new set.
So how plastic is okay and China is? You would think plastic absorbs more.
Apparently not. Yeah. It says the Gemara already talks about kli cheres, which means china. It says Torah ha'ida kli cheres she'eino yotzeh midofio le'olam. The Torah testified about a kli cheres, about china, that whatever it absorbs never comes out. What could you say? What can we do? Okay, fine. The only way that it does is if you really, really, really burn it so much so to such a high temperature that you risk exploding it. And at that point already, we're concerned the guy won't actually go through with it all the way because of the fear that it might burst. And therefore, the whole method doesn't really work. Okay, now, frying pans. So we said for Pesach, there's a leniency that we're allowed to kosher frying pans with hagala. Doesn't need to be what we would do for, let's say, regular treif. If somebody by mistake took a kosher frying pan and cooked pork in it, or fried pork in it, you would need libun. You'd need to blowtorch it. But for chametz, Shulchan Aruch holds that you just need to dip it in boiling hot water, and you're good to go. Again, we're talking about a metal frying pan. Okay, what about glasses? So we hold that you're allowed to drink from the same glasses that you drink all year long, as long as you wash it with soap and water, hot water and soap, you're good to go. You can use the same glasses for drinking. It's okay. What about warming drawers? Familiar with the warming drawer? Right? So this is an interesting item. The warming drawer doesn't get to more than, I think, 200 degrees. Familiar with this? 200 and maybe 250. It's a drawer that you simply put the food in to keep it warm. So the way to kosher a warming drawer, to use it on Pesach, is what you have to do is you being that it does not reach a very high temperature, you have to assist it. So what you do is you leave it for 24 hours, you clean it well, and then you put the warming drawer on the highest temperature. At the same time, you also light one of these sternos. You know what a sterno is? Underneath whenever they cater, so they have these, these trays, they put it on top of these metal things, and underneath there's this little fire going. That's a sterno. So if you put a sterno inside, you leave it there for an hour, and you crack the warming drawer open so it has ventilation, that's good enough. That would kosher your warming drawer. Okay, we're good. We're clear so far. We're good. Okay, what time is it? Okay. What's that? So Rav Ovadia writes Pyrex, Duralex, they're okay. Yeah.
Do you just wash it and?
Wash it, clean it, wash it, you're good. What?
I would thought it's more than glass than that. Yeah.
It's not just glass only? I hear it. Rav Ovadia specifically mentions Pyrex, Duralex, they're okay. If you think
But
I'm sorry?
we still have to make sure that there are no spots, stains, brown spots, etc. on the Pyrex. It has to be cleaned.
Right, you do have to clean it. Indeed, you have to clean it. What's
It's
that?
like if there's stains that you cannot remove, then you cannot use it.
It's interesting. He doesn't mention that, but it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it makes sense. The point is, he says Pyrex, Duralex, if you clean it well, soap and water, you're good to go. That's what he lets you do. So, okay, fine, very good. Now, we don't have much time left. So let's maybe talk about something. Maybe we'll continue next week. But let's talk about certain things that are important to be aware of. Oh yeah, for anybody who's going away for Pesach, so it's important to know what your obligation is as far as B'dikat Chametz goes. We know that the night before Pesach, there's a mitzvah to check the house for Chametz. That applies to everybody, no matter where they are. And that mitzvah is a big mitzvah, to search the house for Chametz the night before Pesach. Now, anybody who leaves within 30 days of Pesach, even though, let's say you're leaving, I don't know, tomorrow night, if you're going to be away for the entire time until Pesach is over, you must check your home for Chametz before you leave. You have a mitzvah to do B'dikat Chametz as long as you're leaving within 30 days before. So that's important to remember. You wouldn't say a bracha on it. What?
There's some people that don't clean their home.
Okay, so how does that work? So the answer is there's one way of completely making yourself exempt from B'dikat Chametz. And that is if you sell your Chametz on the night of the 13th or the day of the 13th of Nisan. So then when the time of the B'dikah arrives, you already sold all your Chametz. You don't own Chametz. There's no reason for you to check it because whatever is there doesn't belong to you. You sold it. So you can completely rid yourself of the mitzvah of B'dikat Chametz if you sell your Chametz on the 13th of the month of Nisan. Last year was the 12th because Pesach was on Shabbat, Erev Pesach was Shabbat. But that's one way to completely avoid having to clean anything. The downside of that is the checking for Chametz is a very spiritual experience, a very wonderful mitzvah. It's not proper to completely, at least in my opinion, to completely just get rid of the mitzvah. But if somebody finds it very difficult and can't, for whatever the reason may be, if he were to sell all of his chametz on the 13th, which is a day before usually everybody else sells it, which is Erev Pesach the 14th, then he would be able to get rid of the mitzvah. Now, what?
Let's say he sells his soul house.
When is he selling? Is he selling on Erev Pesach or is he selling the day before?
Let's say the day before.
So then there's no point because whatever chametz is there isn't his.
I'm not for the children to see.
So it's a nice thing, but there's no, you know what I mean? He's not accomplishing anything. Maybe just to remind them that there's such a thing.
What if you have multiple rooms?
Okay.
Do you have to clean all of them?
So
Like,
the answer is yes, you do. You're obligated to check. You have a mitzvah to do a b'dikah wherever chametz goes. So if, let's say, you have a house in Florida, you would need to make a shaliach to go and to check over there. There's a mitzvah for you to check everywhere, wherever you bring chametz, in the car, in the office, in wherever you bring
What if someone
chametz.
has a lot of real estate? So, like, what do they have to do to clean their like?
I'm not saying they have to clean everything. My point is that you have to do the b'dikah. You have to put your chametz somewhere, lock it up, and it can still be there. You're selling it. But the point is, the mitzvah to check for chametz that you own is upon you, no matter where it is. You have to make sure that it gets checked. See what I'm saying? Okay. Now, let's say you're going to a place, you're going to a hotel in, I don't know, Florida. So do you have to check your hotel room? So the answer is depends. Did you bring chametz there before meaning, did you eat chametz there before Pesach? If the answer is yes, then you have to check it. If you did not bring chametz there, then you definitely don't have a mitzvah. You just look around, do a little pretend thing, and that's it. You don't have a mitzvah because you did not bring any chametz there, and it was totally clean before you arrived. So there's no more mitzvah for you to do anything. Clear?
You have to like sell it, physically sell it, or can you tell your non-Jewish friend, like this is a gift for you. Let's say I have a cabinet at work with my fun snacks.
Yeah.
I just tell her like this is yours.
So no, you have to sell it.
Really?
Yeah, we sell the chametz to the goy in about 7 or 8 different ways. We make sure that the chametz is really, really, really owned by the goy, because if not, then you're in violation of a heavy Torah prohibition. So that's what we make sure that it's sold. We must go through like 6 or 7 different methods of acquiring. It's like, I once heard a rabbi speak before on Shabbat Hagadol. He says the goy owns the chametz better than the husband makes a kinyan on his wife when he gets married to her. It's like, it's the most severe. We make sure that the goy really owns it. We rent the spot to him. We make him pay for it. We do all kinds of things that he should be the owner of it. So yeah, it's important to go through the process with the rabbi. Yeah. If you physically give it to him, if you actually physically take a box and say, here, take this, and you have him pay you $1 or $2 or something for it, then you're pretty good. But because it's a few things. But if you're already, selling, let's say, the things in your house and all the other areas of your life, so then just include this too. Sorry, we had a question over there first.
How to exactly set it? You bring the gold person and
We have a meeting with a goy, and we have him pay us for the chametz, a down payment, because to buy all the chametz is worth a lot of money. All this liquor and all these things cost a lot of money. He gives us a down payment. We also rent him the location, a particular location. Through that, he becomes the owner. There's a lot of different things that we do in order that he should own it.
Do they gain anything in the end? Yeah, they're giving it back.
So they own the chametz. If they want, they could technically knock on your door at any moment, come in and get it because it belongs to them, and that's it.
Or they're just doing a favor.
No, they're the actual owners, and if they want it, they can come and take it.
so how is it that no guy has ever come from? Thank God. To buy the comments, to get the comments that they own.
They're just not so interested, but
They're not interested in like $1,000 worth of liquor.
they might be interested, but the point is that they understand that it's not really meant for them to come and do it, but at the same time, halachically, they own it. That's the most important part. Usually it's somebody that we explain it to. Yeah.
Somebody came in a truck.
Yes, I've heard of stories. There have been stories. Not too long ago, I think it was Rabbi Feiner in the 5 towns that sent out a picture of somebody who came to one of the people's houses and said, I want my, and he was there and he was eating whatever oatmeal the guy had in his, he wanted it. Yeah, that's okay. Listen, that's the real deal. It's a sale. It's a real thing. That shows it's a very good sale. Yes.
Is there like an extra mitzvah to move furniture and to clean behind your furniture and to go places that are very high up in your home to clean for Pesach?
The mitzvah is to clean wherever chametz goes. If there's chametz there, if you bring chametz there, then you should clean there, or get help to clean there, or your husband could clean there. Anybody can clean. It doesn't have to be you yourself that needs to clean there. But the point is, it needs to get cleaned wherever chametz goes.
wherever chametz goes. So
Yeah.
if chametz doesn't go there and you're cleaning it, is that a mitzvah or is it not a mitzvah?
You don't have an obligation to clean anywhere that chametz is not brought into. The Mishnah talks about
Like the bathroom.
what?
Like the closets in the bathroom. Or
If chametz is not brought there, you don't have to clean it. Yeah, it's not spring cleaning. It's wherever chametz goes, that's where you have to clean.
But I don't know all the time because like some of my children, like one of my child, she breaks things everywhere. I don't know where like.
Okay, so if you have a concern, then you should, try and verify. Sometimes they bring things you would never think to certain places, but I once found during my bdikat chametz a tzedakah box. I said to myself, why is there a tzedakah box in my kid's room? What is this? Anyway, I go inside, I open the tzedakah box, it's wafers, it's chocolates, it's all kinds of, in a tzedakah box, It's, okay.
Because they do
Yeah.
this thing.
They do, I know they do, it's true. Okay, I guess that's gonna call it for tonight. If we have any questions, bechavod, anybody on Zoom, or anybody else?
Like makeup, lip products, is that fine for spring?
So yeah, I had a whole thing prepared on that. Hashem, I guess next week. I'll keep you on your yeah, make it come back. But the simple idea is that according to many Sephardic rabbis, lipstick and things like that are technically okay, even if they contain chametz, because they are they're not edible for a dog to eat. So therefore, it's okay. We'll see more opinions next week. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Chazakim Bruchim. We'll continue next week.